Hey everyone, this is Carbonite bringing you another standard match. Today we have myself on the left trying to test out Wilista post-ban list, and on the right we have another post-ban list deck, which is going to be Ava, piloted by fan favorite Tim. So anyways, I guess getting into the match, we'll see how both of these decks manage with their new restrictions and unrestrictions. We do see the habitable zone coming out using the skill before we search. Personally, not something I would do. You know, you always want to deck thin before you start drawing, but you know, it doesn't really matter in the end. I guess it does matter a little bit, but I'm gonna pretend that it doesn't, just for the sake of helping Tim save face here. But looks like we are going to be rocking the grade 0 scale there. Since we did actually go second, we get to draw. So that was a very interesting turn of events, you know, draw, search, draw. Going to be guarding that. Unfortunately, having to commit the front trigger because I believe that was my only 15k shield in my hand at the time. Discarding a Resius to ride into that grade 2. Deciding what I want to put into the soul. And it looks like I'm going to go with that Yuika because although I will say currently my list is playing with the cycle card and not the Elevira, so actually giving up Yuikas does feel a little bit bad, since at least the build that I've created after testing this the basically beta build feels kind of bad giving up a Yuika, something I probably won't do in the future, because with the Elevira gone, we really don't have a lot of good boosters. Since I'm a god player, I did manage to get a Ramona, and we do also see an Elevira coming down. Actually, it's not Elevira, that's like Elena or whatever. I always call her just Beware of Overeating. She's a card that when she boosts a rear guard, you got to check the top card of the deck, and then, you know, decide where it goes, top or bottom. We do see Tim forgetting what Wilista does, even though he has the deck max rarity. Very funny, guarding for a 1 to pass, and what do you know? The one time that you forget about the extra 5k from the order turns out to be the time that you hit the trigger. And we are going to be hitting into a defensive trigger, so this Ramona, since it didn't get the power from the trigger because we had to stack that on the Vanguard, is going to be blocked by just a 15k shield. Perfectly valid, although it is kind of a very huge loss in tempo that we ended up, you know, basically losing out on a 15k guard there. But we'll see how that impacts the match. Definitely Ava not being in the greatest situation. And we do see the unrestriction from Ava, playing the grade 1 order and then calling out a Combine Rusher from the drop zone, and then calling out another Combine Rusher from the hand. Now, I did actually check the top card of my deck with the skill to Beware of the Overeating, which is a card that I think I'm probably going to be taking out, as we'll see. I'll explain a little bit why. I did know there was a defensive trigger, so I'm just going to be taking that first attack, letting the Vanguard swing into the Ramona, because if I block it, I'm going to have to block another attack from the second Combine Rusher. So going into my grade 3 turn, basically exactly where you want to be with Wilista. You want just 1 damage most of the time, just if you want to use an Ophelia. At this point, I don't think I actually have any Ophelias, but hopefully we can get one off of this Wilista skill. So we're going to go ahead and proc it, checking the top 5, and it looks like we kind of do have a pretty terrible top 5. Only going to be getting a Beware of Overeating, and then a copy of my Cycle card as probably the best targets. I think this is like 2 triggers and another copy of Illumirays, Crossing Illumirays. So these are honestly my best options. Part of me like considered not calling them out, but you know, free advantage, especially when you don't have Elevira anymore, is just going to be kind of necessary for Wilista now. I think you do really have to change how you play the deck, and obviously my build has been changed, and I don't really like these Beware of Overeatings, but we will see. Playing the Crossing Illumirays for 1, which is kind of how it's going to be from now on. We don't really have Elevira, so that Crossing Illumiray is just going to be for 1, which is not completely terrible. I've played lots of games where I didn't see a single Elevira. I've played games where I saw 1 Elevira. It definitely does hurt Wilista a lot to lose out on either one of those cards, but I will have to say that I like the Cycle card just a little bit better, just because it does give you those extra draws, and the fact that it gives an extra 5k to your front row when you're under Persona Ride just means that you hit that much harder. Unfortunately, I really don't have any good anything good to call, so I'm going to be calling a Resius, giving the power to the thing behind it so that we're hitting at least a 21, which is still a good number considering that Tim is still on grade 2. I'm going to be swinging just an 18, very pathetic attack there, hitting into a critical trigger, pushing Tim all the way to 4 already, and then swinging the Resius at 31. So once again, this is kind of one of the reasons why I don't really like the Beware of Overeating. It kind of like just messes up with your attack patterns, because in this situation, you would really want to swing with Wilista first to like bank on triggers, or more likely the front triggers, because if you don't swing with Wilista first, you kind of miss out on those front triggers. But at the same time, if you swing with the rear guards and boost with the Beware of Overeating, you're missing out on that. You have to swing with the rear guards first, because you want to check the top card, because after you swing with the Vanguard, like sure, you can put a defensive trigger on top of the deck, but really, how good is that? It really does not really work with Wilista as well as I thought it might, and we are going to see another reason why I don't like it. But anyways, I guess getting back to the match, we do have Ava riding into the grade 3, playing the world is a blue research lab or whatever, calling out the Pip Ava, which is definitely not what you want to be calling. You usually want an Obfuscate, but unfortunately Tim is not good at, getting exactly what he needs like I am. But we do see the Combine Rusher called out with its skill. We've got plenty of Counter Blast since we had to take so many critical attacks. And looks like we are just waiting on Tim to do his very classic, taking a long time of just trying to figure out what he wants to get. We did use the Ava skill, checking top 3, looking at those top 3, checking the hand. Unfortunately, we only got like one check of the hand. We didn't check the drop zone or the field or the damage zone. But looks like we're just gonna have to deal with only checking the hand once. But once again, terrible situation for Ava. Gonna be swinging the not swinging the Ava, excuse me, using the Blue Research Order Lab to give the extra 5k to the Pip Ava, and then swinging the Combine Rusher. We did actually get those. I think he needs 3 orders in the order zone, or at least 2, I don't know. I don't play Combine Rusher, so I don't really care. But we are going to swing the Ava, using the skill to call an Obfuscate. Probably going to be going for the grade 3 Obfuscate, as we pass, literally 3 copies of it there. I didn't even notice that before. But there was definitely an option for calling out the grade 2. I don't know if it's in hand or in deck. If it is in deck, you might as well call it out, because you could just wipe out my front row. But at the same time, this is a honestly terrible front row. Like, whoa, I'm losing a Arceus and a Cycle card. I'd feel so bad if you were to attack into my entire front row. But, it's not really going to matter. You are see a critical trigger hit there, but I am at 1 damage, so I really don't care about that. Don't hit a single defensive, unfortunately. So I am going to have to take these next 2 attacks basically full force. The Pip Ava is going to be hitting into a defensive trigger, making this Obfuscate that much easier to guard. But in the end, it didn't really matter. I did have the front trigger. I probably would have committed the front triggers to go to 33 and then just intercept with my Cycle card to make it 38. Now, I do have the Persona Ride, so this is looking to be a pretty good turn. Honestly, what I'm looking for here is I have an Ophelia in hand. So what I'm looking for, ideally, is another copy of Ramona, as well as another copy of my Cycle card to give it an extra 5k, because I do have the 3 Counter Blast available to do all those plays. Unfortunately, I don't see the Cycle card, but I do see basically, exactly what I was asking for. An Ophelia that I don't really need, but, might as well deck thin since I have the option. And then, of course, there is the Ramona. So this is looking like a very powerful turn, considering that Tim is at 4, and he doesn't have a ton of cards in hand because Ava needs a few turns in order to stabilize. So things are not really looking good for Tim here. I am going to be calling out the Ophelia just to be a card to return, because I think I actually have 2 in my hand at this point, and I have another on field, so I really don't need any Ophelias. And here we get into my second problem with the Beware of Overeating. I think I've said this a few times, but I always like to save the boost for the second attack, just because of that philosophy where you always want to swing with your weakest attacks first and save your stronger attacks for the end. But playing the Beware of Overeating doesn't really let you do that, because you kind of have to check the top card and dig for triggers even more. Otherwise, what's the point? As we do see Wilista coming out here, swing for that massive 43, standing the Ramona, gonna be hit with a PG. First check is going to be a critical trigger, kind of deciding where we want to put it. Looks like we're just gonna stack it on to the Ophelia, just to kind of guarantee, but it doesn't really matter since I hit a heal trigger, because I am a god at hitting triggers, giving the power to Ramona, and then of course using the Ophelia to restand itself. So these next couple of attacks are going to be pretty big. Looks like Tim only has 3 cards left in hand, going to be checking that drop zone for I don't know why, but maybe we can guard from drop zone, but it's looking like things are pretty bad here. This Ramona by herself is just going to be a 43, and I believe that other one is a 58 or so. So we're just going to be taking that, hoping for the heal. It's not going to come, and that is going to be the match. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to do all those YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.